For more than 2 decades, I have written in a diary almost every single day. And guess what? I saved them all. Each week, I will be reading from these archives and getting to know myself from the lens of my 10, 16, 25, and 36-year-old self. We'll explore big topics such as body image, queerness, divorce, addiction, mental health, and friendship. I'll read cringy poems and attempt to find compassion for the painful tenderness of my younger self. Join the drama of me and my guests as we explore our boy-crazy, closeted, angsty selves, one stupid page at a time. During a freezing cold snowstorm, we drove 2 hours, which was really 4 hours, to Toronto to then take a 7,000-hour flight to Chennai, India, to surprise Shiva's parents with our news. We were getting married. Oh, and by the way, we were getting married tomorrow. Shiva's mother and father, Amma and Appa, respectively, were so surprised when we showed up at their door and made us promise right away that the next time we came to India, we would tell them first. Appa has a heart condition, you know. Amma immediately informed me that we could absolutely not get married tomorrow, as it was a very unlucky day. If we were willing to wait 1 week, we could be married on the most auspicious day according to both of our astrological charts. The date was set, and all that was left was to get me fitted for my meti, the toe rings gifted by the husband during the wedding ceremony, typically worn in pairs on the second toe of both feet that give both Ayurvedic and spiritual benefits, and for Shiva to pick out my tali, the sacred wedding necklace in place of a wedding ring. Amma also took me shopping for a beautiful silk sari. And then, on January 28th, the most auspicious day of the year, Shiva and I got married while sitting on the floor of his Amma's kitchen, rice falling over our heads as we sang Hindu prayers. We arrived before dawn. The luckiest time of the luckiest day was apparently 7 a.m., and right away, Amma swept me into the bedroom to wrap my sari. We sat in front of the altar Amma and Appa set up for us that morning, complete with fresh milk from a nearby sacred cow, bags of rice, and lots of fresh-cut flowers. The room smelt of fire and strong coffee and jasmine. We sat quietly while Amma and Appa both gave their blessings, happy tears welling in my eyes as Shiva squeezed my hand. Rice rained down on our heads, an incantation for abundance, and with that, the tears flowed and did not stop. Amma chanted as sacred smoke filled the entire house. It was loud and vibrant and intimate and surreal. Raw sugar was placed in our palms so that we could start our marriage with sweetness, and with that, our marriage ceremony was complete. Shiva and I walked up a few flights of stairs to the roof of his childhood home, where he used to sit and study and think and pray. It was already unfathomably humid, and as sweat trickled down my neck, the only feeling I could name was safe. While on the roof, we took photos and danced, slowly sipping the precious quiet morning as the city burst below us. By the time we returned downstairs, the house was filled with neighbors who all wanted to give their blessings. As we sipped Amma's strong coffee, we called my family back home. My mom and dad were both beaming as he exclaimed, "We have a son." Later in the day, Shiva, Amma, and I went temple hopping. We went to my favorite temple first, the one where you can feed the cows straight from your hand. Then we went to Amma's favorite temple, where her and Appa were married so many years ago. I was showered with blessings and strings of fresh jasmine. I was a little overstimulated at this point, so when we got back to our hotel, Shiva let me swim by myself for the entire afternoon. We made love for hours and then shared pizza and pasta in bed. We were asleep by 10 p.m. A dream. A few months later, on a mild, sunny spring day, we got married again. This time, Shiva's daughter stood beside us along with my mom, dad, and sister. We had a quiet ceremony in the garden, in front of the fields where I've played my whole life. Naui was nearby, her spirit as bright as my yellow dress. My Omi and Opie showed up as ferns and mushrooms and daisies. It was romantic and warm and full of love. There were petals floating through the air for the entire ceremony, and we could hear a tragically hip song playing softly from the porch. More than anything, though, it was uncomplicated. When I looked around, all I saw was love. There is a version of me from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago that was shining down on me in complete disbelief for how far I've come, for how hard I had to work for a life like this one. Sometimes I sink into comparison mode. When I see Instagram weddings and TikTok weddings, it's easy to think, well, maybe my cute little low-budget garden wedding isn't that great. I see big lacy white dresses and perfect makeup and giant bouquets and think, my $12 market bouquet and my $8 thrift store dress ain't much. There was no fancy playlist, no coordinated dance. We ate Caesar salad and grilled chicken for lunch, and my mom made a toast with a can of diet ginger ale. But I know those are just stories. The true story is that on the day of my second wedding, that past version of myself was absolutely beaming with pride and disbelief. There are versions of me that could never have gotten here. But here I am. Here I am. On the morning of our third wedding, I opened my eyes and heard the click of the light switch. I knew immediately that the power to the cottage we had rented was still out. I was getting my bridal henna done when I watched the lake begin to stir, quietly and then violently. The power cut out around 7 p.m., and we finished our dress rehearsal by candlelight, laughing as we stumbled through the rest of the evening in the glow of tea lights. Was this a disaster? No. But a little ironic that I spent 12 years as a wedding caterer, witnessing the good, the bad, and the ugly of event planning. I'd seen cakes collapse, florists forget bouquets, bridal parties dissolve into screaming matches, and one particularly memorable mother of the bride threatened legal action over the shade of the marinara sauce. I'd planned for literally everything that could go wrong, except this. By morning, my brain was already cataloging the fallout of having no electricity for the last 12 hours, no air conditioning during a heat wave, no place to do hair and makeup, plus refrigerators that were warming by the minute. I know how to make lemonade out of lemons, but what was I supposed to make out of 5 pounds of spoiled chicken and 150 dead oysters? Even writing this, I feel like a bridezilla brat. I feel like I want to scrap this whole essay because honestly, who the fuck cares about the oysters I ordered special from the East Coast? It's just food. In the grand scheme of things, none of this really matters. I know this. Even now, I can feel myself wanting to apologize for caring and to insist that I'm not one of those brides. I've spent most of my life preparing for disaster. Not because I'm especially organized, though y'all have seen my spreadsheets, but because somewhere along the way, I became absolutely convinced that joy is fragile. A series of unfortunate events and traumas in my youth has convinced me that I must anticipate every possible catastrophe. If I can predict it, perhaps I can outrun it. So when I woke up on my wedding morning to 12 hours without power, my nervous system did exactly what it was trained to do. My body froze and I began to spiral. Shiva, on the other hand, went into do mode. He sprung out of bed sans coffee, a first in 5 years, and immediately launched into his robust action plan of getting everything on ice and scouring the small village for anyone who might have a backup generator. These were things I couldn't even think about. My 2 best friends eventually entered the bedroom where I was icing my eyes, oh, the drama, and said quite plainly, hey, so we need you to get ready because you're going to get in the car and we're going to drop you off at the spa and then we're going to pick you up in 4 hours and when you get back here, everything will be handled, okay? My brain rejected this immediately. What do you mean everything will be handled? Everything had never been handled unless I was the one to handle everything. Through tears, I asked them, is there any universe where I deserve this kind of friendship? Yep, now get dressed. Beautiful as it was, I won't remember this spa. But I will remember the girls who, after they asked me to take their picture and I began crying, also sprang into action. Oh my God, what do you need? One of them offered bobby pins, LOL. One offered to paint my nails. They all surrounded me in a group hug. Girls really are the best girls. While I was trying to relax at the spa, my 2 besties who had never met were on their own adventure and meeting magic at every impossible task. Neighbors offered their generators, their ovens, their solar lights. They found a field where they could pick as many flowers as they wanted. Our Verbo host brought battery-operated fans. And would you believe me if I told you that they ran into a chef who agreed to sell them 6 dozen oysters and pack them on so much ice that they could probably survive the apocalypse? When I returned to the cottage, I couldn't believe my eyes. There were fresh cut flowers everywhere. My bestie's husband had taken over the food and was simmering fresh paneer. The oysters were on ice, and the only thing left to do was get ready. I've never been a roll with it kind of person. I care about everything deeply. I cared that my guests were comfortable. I cared that every person tasted the perfect plump oyster, married with homemade hot sauce, freshly grated horseradish, a drop of lemon, and a shallot mignonette worthy of a Michelin star. I cared that every petal was torn by hand, each one thanked before it was plucked. I cared that every charcuterie board looked abundant, that every bowl was full before anyone noticed it was empty, that no one ever had to wonder where to stand or what to do next. I've been telling myself for years that this is the caterer in me, but I am realizing now that this is actually the people pleaser in me, and wow, that makes me want to puke. Our guests, of course, had no idea anything was wrong. But once the party got started, we shared our apologies that the AC wasn't running. No one cared. Of course, no one cared. When you are truly loved, people rarely remember the details of the room. They remember how the room felt. During our ceremony, I whispered to Shiva, "Is anyone else even here?" Looking into his sweet face, I couldn't hear the fans buzzing, or my friend marching over to scold the man who was aggressively jet skiing through our ceremony. I didn't notice the curious beachgoers stopping to watch and take photos. I was, for the first time in my life, and certainly for the first time that weekend, unbothered. I had spent years making other people's weddings beautiful while believing I didn't need, or maybe didn't deserve, the same kind of care myself. What feels even sadder to say is that for my whole life, I have believed that love was something you earned by being useful, by anticipating everyone's needs, by solving problems before anyone even noticed them, and I suspect I am not alone in this. And while there are many things that didn't go my way, when I look back on my wedding day, there is one thing I will remember more than anything else. It won't be the oysters or the flower petals or the expanse of the lake. It will be the strangers who became part of the magic, part of the story. It will be a best friend on each side of me saying in their own way, "We've got you." It will be the man downstairs dealing with the weight of the world, so I didn't have to. It will be knowing that when the lights go out, people don't leave. They light the way.